Hello gamers, once again it is time for another deck tech speedrun where I show you a Magic the Gathering deck and take you through basically the whole 9 yards and show you how the deck works, all the tactics, all the things, take you through a couple hands, and just give you a good vibe of how it's supposed to play. Now if you want to check out the deck, you can look in this link in the description below, and as well as check out all my other decks in previous videos before and stuff that I'm brewing up on Moxfield right now. But before we get into it, I just have to say that although this is the most patriotic deck I have, it is not red, white, and blue. It is actually white, black, and green. But without further ado, let's get into the speed run. So this deck is called, now that's what I call a full Boardstate. And basically, if you can read the tags, it's Abzan, you're dredging a bunch of stuff out, so you're not going to have a graveyard for super long, but it matters that you have a graveyard. You're going to be reanimating stuff. And the big kicker, you're gonna be doing a lot of land stuff. And the main commander for this deck is Stallion the Gitrog monster, mainly so that you can play an extra land on each of your turns. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battle tapped. So it's gonna make it so much harder for your opponents to be doing stuff. And because whenever it attacks, you have to sacrifice a land or a creature. You also get to draw a card, so that's another good thing about this deck, because you do a lot of card drawing off of like things going to the graveyard, this and that, and there's a lot of things. So there's a lot of land-based tactics in here, such as landfall. You have a lot of landfall effects. Blue Bonds, I like to also say, is kind of like that. So whenever a land enters, it causes a thing. Landfall creatures, mainly there. You have land matters, where however many lands that you control, it means something, or just to protect your lands and stuff like that. Like Greensleeves, Invasion of Lorwyn, and Beanstalk Giant. Creatures that care about that. And then lands in graveyards, you have things like Dredge, literally, Crop Rotation, Torment, which basically allows it so your lands can't be targets of spells and abilities your opponents control. And you can play lands from your graveyard, and you have quite a few effects in here that allow you to play lands from your graveyard, such as Conduit of Worlds. I know it's not Crucible of Worlds, but I have it in other decks, so yeah, it's just the same thing. You don't really need Crucible of Worlds in this deck because you already have a lot of other ways of playing lands from the graveyard. So it doesn't really matter that you don't have it. And Conduit of Worlds just has fun little flavor added onto it, which is pretty neat. You also get extra land plays like Mana Bound, where you just basically put out your whole hand if you have a bunch of land, like Sylvan Scrying, just trying to get out as many lands as possible onto the battlefield. And like same with Recursion, and then you get the mass land destruction. You have Armageddon, Catastrophe, which is kind of modal, so you can destroy creatures or lands, which is very cool. But also there's Fall of Thrawn, which is actually another good way of doing it, because it not only destroys all lands, but allows you to return 2 lands to the battlefield each turn. Although that's for all players, that's really good if you have something like Polluted Bonds out there. But some other stuff that happens in this, you have an easy Merit Lodge, you have the combo of Dark Depths with Thespian Stage, or Dark Depths with Vampire Hexmage. And Vampire Hexmage is also very good if like your opponent is doing a bunch of counter stuff, like adding a bunch of counters onto a creature, so that's another good thing to do. But then you also have what I like to call chicanery. It's just basically doing other land-based, random fun land-based effects. It's like, oh, you can add 3 times as much mana. Bootlegger Stash, which is pretty good. Rude Awakening, just untap all your lands or turn them into 2/2s. Smothering Tithe. So funny good land stuff, and get more mana and resources that you can use to pay and not care about if you're destroying all lands or stuff like that. That's the main point of the deck, is just to basically grow your field, and it doesn't matter if things die. Looking at the mana curve, you have a lot of stuff within the lower 2, 3, 4, but you do have things that go up in mana value. And although, like, say you only have here it only says you only have a 7.9% chance of playing this on curve. There's gonna be ways, and you're not gonna be hurting for mana. It has 37 lands in the deck, and as we were looking before, a bunch of ways to just get lands out there and put lands either into the graveyard, onto the battlefield. Just find ways to get more than one land out a turn and just get as much resources as possible. So let's try out a hand here. This actually looks pretty decent. So we're gonna work with this. We're gonna act like it's a multiplayer game, so you're gonna draw a card per turn. This is actually pretty decent. I'm gonna imagine that I have more than 2 opponents, thus I can play this. Could play that for turn. My next turn, I'm gonna play this Forge of the Heroes just to get more stuff out there. I already have enough mana fixing, even for what I have, for my hand and stuff that I got. I don't have to care much about what I'm using, which is actually pretty good. Actually, hold on, I gotta actually do my next turn, then do it that way. And then let's go to the next turn, turn 3. I think I could play the Horn of Greed, but that'll allow my opponents to do stuff before I can actually really use it for myself. So what I'm gonna do is do Azusa Lost But Seeking first, which allows me to play, after I play a land, that'll allow me to play multiple lands per turn. So I will kind of just wait for that on my next turn. So get to turn 4. I'm going to play a Horizon Canopy. Oh wait, no, I'm going to wait to play Horizon Canopy, play a Horn of Greed, then play a land, which allowed me to draw a card. You see what we're doing here. And then that would be my turn for that. And then turn 5. Ooh, this is actually going to be pretty good. So let's play one of these. And then already have 5 mana that I can use on... 5 mana on turn 5. Not bad, actually. It's kind of lower on the lower end, but now we're starting to get into funny stuff. Let's play the commander. That just exists. Play an additional land per turn to creatures and non-basics. So that's a good way to just slow down your opponents. Just get to turn 6. I'm gonna play play that, and then I don't really have anything that you can use right now. Although, I could just attack with this. Say Dalian and get Trog Monster attacks, tap it. I'm gonna sack whatever this forest, because I paid it to get the thing out there. Draw a card. Ooh, decent. Not bad. Could be worse. Actually, no, probably a better idea. If I were to tap this one for land, I would probably play this one, because looking at my hand, you want to play the Conduit of Worlds and do stuff like that. You want to make sure that you have the right resources to work with. And although this is kind of like getting into the mid game where the deck really starts to fold and have its like shenanigans go on. This is where you want to be careful and sequence the way that you want to play cards out. So what I would want to do, because if I attack with that, actually I'm going to do one. I have 5. I have enough to actually do that. Hold on, do I? Actually, you know what I will do for the turn? I will untap that, and then I would actually play that and not play this, because there's no reason for me to play it. And I would use 4 out of the 5 mana to do that. I would attack, sack this, and then go to my next turn. Oh, okay, got an Armageddon, which is incredibly funny. So I would just, for this turn, what I would do here, because I can play lands on my graveyard, I'm going to basically just immediately 1, 2, 3, 4 play Armageddon. Destroy all lands. All lands are going to the graveyard. But watch this shit. Watch this shit. I haven't played a land per turn. I can play up to 4 lands. Guess how many lands I got? 1, 2, 3, and my regular 4. And I'm already drawing 4 cards to that. Yep. And they all come out untapped. And I'm going to play Sylvan Scrying to get out another land. Actually, I don't want to play Sylvan Scrying this turn. I can't really play it this turn. So I want to get stuff out of my hand. So I want to get Vampire Hexmage. get that out of there so I have less to discard. I think what I would do here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, I have enough to just sack some stuff. So what I'll probably throw into the graveyard here is my swamp and my forest. And now turn 8 is when stuff really gets going. Actually, I'm going to put this into exile because I want to keep this separate. And then I would have more. Yeah, this is right. So I'd play a command tower, draw a card, Evolving Wilds, draw a card. And see, like with Horn of Greed now on the battlefield, that's allowing me to do a lot of stuff. And I can just play. I can play this. It's a 5/5 now. I could play anything and just get a bunch of cool land effects. And that's the main thing of the deck, is just to get out as many benefits out of the lands that you got, and try to get out as many things out as possible by just wiping the battlefield of every single land that your opponent has. And then, oh yeah, I could just play all my lands this turn. That is the whole gameplay mode of the deck, and it's so oppressive, but when it works, it's so good. And I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, that's it for the speedrun.